The Veil of Simplicity. The crimson light of Proxima Vega spilled across the surface of Outpost Demeter, casting long shadows over what appeared to be a modest human settlement. To an outside observer, the cluster of dome structures and basic terraforming equipment would suggest a young colony, perhaps established within the last century. Certainly nothing remarkable by galactic standards. Commander Ilara Way stood at the edge of the settlement's perimeter, her weathered face turned toward the horizon, where 3 moons hung in precarious alignment. She appeared no older than 40, though the depth in her dark eyes suggested otherwise. Her hand brushed against the simple communication device at her belt. Deliberately outdated technology. "They're coming," she said softly, addressing no one visible. "ETA 12 minutes. "Confirmed," replied a voice that seemed to emanate from the air itself. Telseri diplomatic vessel approaching on projected trajectory. Biosignatures indicate 17 individuals. Weapon systems passive but operational. ADLAS, Autonomous Temporal Logistics and Augmentation System, had been Ilara's companion for longer than anyone would believe. The AI's presence was undetectable to visitors. Their conversations took place through a neural interface that predated even the oldest civilizations currently traversing the stars. Ilara nodded, surveying the settlement. "Everyone knows their roles. The settlement is prepared, Commander. The protocols are in effect." The protocols, developed over millennia and refined through countless first contact scenarios. The careful orchestration of appearing less advanced than they truly were. A stance of humility that had kept humanity safe while empires rose and fell around them. In the distance, a ship descended through the atmosphere, its silver hull gleaming with bioluminescent patterns that marked the distinctive Telseri design philosophy. They were newcomers to this sector, a species barely 2,000 years into their interstellar phase, yet already convinced of their superiority in the cosmic hierarchy. Ilara straightened her simple brown tunic. "Let's welcome our guests." The Telseri ship landed with precision at the designated zone just beyond the settlement's modest spaceport. The vessel was elegant, a testament to efficient engineering that spoke of confidence and calculated display. Its hull slid open without a sound, revealing figures that stepped forward with grace that bordered on arrogance. The Telseri stood nearly 7 feet tall, their bodies covered in iridescent scales that shifted colors with their emotional states. Currently, they displayed hues of cautious blue tinged with yellow curiosity. Their leader, distinguishable by the intricate metallic adornments covering his head crest, stepped forward. "I am High Emissary Velen Ke," he announced, his voice translated through a device on his throat. "We bring greetings from the Telseri Concordat to the human outpost designated Demeter." Ilara stepped forward, her posture deliberately displaying a mix of awe and caution, the expected reaction of a relatively inexperienced species encountering a more advanced civilization. "Commander Ilara Way of Earth Central Authority," she replied, using the deliberately simplistic title. "Welcome to Outpost Demeter. We're honored by your visit." Velenke's scales rippled with faint purple, pride, perhaps smugness. "We have been observing your settlement from orbit, a commendable effort for a species with your limited interstellar experience." Ilara bowed slightly. "We do what we can with what we have. Our colony is young but determined." This was the dance, the careful presentation of humanity as a species barely 500 years into their cosmic journey. The reality, buried under layers of secrecy so deep that even most humans living today didn't know it, was vastly different. "We would be pleased to show you our settlement," Ilara offered, "though I'm afraid it may seem primitive compared to your advanced civilization." Velenke's crest fluttered, an indication of either amusement or condescension. "All species begin somewhere, Commander. The Telseri remember our own humble origins. We are here to offer friendship and perhaps guidance." Behind Ilara, several colonists had gathered, their expressions showing appropriate wonder at the alien visitors, all carefully choreographed. Among them was Dr. Marcus Chen, the settlement's apparent head scientist, though his true expertise extended far beyond what his current role suggested. This way, Ilara gestured toward the central dome. Our facilities are modest, but we're proud of what we've accomplished. As the delegation moved through the settlement, Ilara was acutely aware of the Telseri scanning devices, discreetly activated, but hardly subtle to her enhanced perception. They were cataloging everything: power outputs, material compositions, biological readings. "Your energy systems are fusion-based?" asked one of the Telseri scientists, gesturing toward the power facility. "Yes," Marcus replied, stepping forward with rehearsed enthusiasm. "Achieved stable fusion 30 Earth years ago. It was a significant breakthrough for our colony's sustainability." The Telseri scientist's scales flickered green, indicating interest mixed with something like pity. "An important stepping stone. The Concordat moved beyond fusion nearly 4 centuries ago." "Remarkable," Marcus replied with practiced humility. "Perhaps someday we'll achieve such advancement." Ilara caught Marcus's eye briefly, a momentary shared understanding between two individuals who had personally witnessed the rise and fall of technologies far beyond anything the Telseri had yet imagined. The tour continued through hydroponics facilities, living quarters, and the medical center, all deliberately designed to appear functional but unexceptional. Occasionally, Ilara would notice Velenke pausing, his compound eyes lingering on specific details: the too-perfect precision of certain structural elements, the unusual durability of seemingly simple materials. "Your adaptation to this world is impressive," Velenke remarked as they reached the education center. "How long did terraforming take?" 3 generations, Ilara replied. "We're still adjusting some atmospheric parameters." Velenke's head tilted. "Strange. Our preliminary scan suggested the ecosystem has been stable for much longer." A dangerous moment. Ilara maintained her expression of polite interest. The planet had favorable conditions to begin with. "We were fortunate." "Fortune indeed," the Telseri leader murmured, not entirely convinced. By evening, the tour complete, the Telseri were invited to a communal meal in the central gathering space. Food, deliberately simple but flavorful, was shared as conversation flowed with careful restraint. Yet as the night progressed, Ilara noticed Velenke growing increasingly observant, his scales occasionally flashing with colors she recognized as suspicion. After the meal, as most of the delegation conversed with the colonists, Velenke approached Ilara privately. "Commander, I find myself curious about something," he said, his voice lowered. "Your archives mention this is your 17th extrasolar colony, yet your technology seems inconsistent. Some elements appear far more advanced than others." Ilara offered a practiced smile. "Resource limitations. We adapt what we can transport easily and improvise the rest." "Perhaps," Velenke replied, unconvinced. "Or perhaps there is more to humanity than you present." Before Ilara could respond, a young colonist rushed into the gathering space, her expression alarmed despite her obvious attempt to appear calm. "Commander Wei," she said, slightly breathless, "there's been a situation at the northern excavation site. Dr. Chen requests your presence immediately." Ilara felt a cold sensation settle in her stomach. The northern site, where the ruins lay. The ruins that should have been completely obscured from detection. "Excuse me, High Emissary," she said to Velenke. "A matter requiring my attention." "Of course," the Telseri replied, his scales now distinctly orange with curiosity. "Perhaps I might accompany you. The Concordat has extensive experience with geological anomalies." It wasn't a request. Ilara knew refusal would only deepen suspicion. "Certainly," she conceded. "Though I should warn you, it's likely just a structural issue with our excavation equipment." As they traveled to the northern site in one of the settlement's utilitarian transport vehicles, Ilara communicated silently with Aplas. "Status report. Containment breach at Sector 7. Temporal artifacts partially exposed. Chronometric readings unstable." "How bad?" "Bad enough, Commander. The probability of maintaining the protocols has decreased to 47%. Options. Limited. Consider Revelation Protocol Omega. Ilara's heart raced despite her outward calm. Revelation Protocol Omega had been implemented only 3 times in human history. Each instance had fundamentally altered the relationship between humanity and the species involved. The transport crested a ridge, and the excavation site came into view. Even from a distance, Ilara could see the problem. A section of the dig site had collapsed, revealing metalloid structures with a distinctive blue glow, technology that clearly didn't belong to a supposedly young colony. Beside her, Velenka leaned forward, his scales shifting to a deep, intense purple she hadn't seen before. "Commander Wei," he said, his voice now sharper than the diplomatic tones he used previously. "I believe you have some explaining to do." Ilara gazed at the exposed ruins, remnants of a human outpost that predated the Telsari's evolution as a sentient species by several 100,000 years. "Yes," she replied simply. "I suppose I do. Ancestors among stars." The exposed ruins glowed with a soft azure light that hadn't dimmed in hundreds of millennia. As Ilara and Velenka approached, Dr. Marcus Chen stood at the edge of the collapsed excavation site, his expression a careful mask of scientific curiosity masking genuine concern. "Commander," he acknowledged, then nodded to the Telsari emissary. "High Emissary, we've encountered what appears to be pre-colonial artifacts." Velenka moved closer to the edge, his tall form silhouetted against the glow emanating from below. His scales had shifted to a deep indigo, a color Ilara recognized as profound intellectual interest. "These are not artifacts," the Telsari stated flatly. "This is a functional temporal anchor node, a technology the Concordat has theorized but never successfully implemented." He turned to face Ilara, his compound eyes reflecting the blue light. "A technology that should be thousands of years beyond your civilization's current capabilities." The moment had arrived sooner than planned. Ilara exchanged a glance with Marcus, a look that contained a conversation's worth of meaning between two people who had lived through epochs together. "High Emissary," Ilara began, her voice taking on a different quality, deeper, more resonant with authority that had been carefully hidden until now. "What you're seeing is indeed ours, but not recent. This outpost predates your civilization's first written language by approximately 300,000 years." The scales across Velenka's body flickered rapidly between colors, disbelief, confusion, anger, and finally settling on a mottled pattern indicating cognitive dissonance. "Impossible," he whispered, but the uncertainty in his voice betrayed that he was already reassessing everything he thought he knew. Marcus approached the edge of the excavation and gestured toward the exposed technology. "This is a chronometric stabilization node, one of thousands we established throughout this sector during our first expansion phase. It's been dormant for millennia, only maintaining baseline functions." "If what you claim is true," Velenka said slowly, his diplomatic veneer cracking under the weight of revelation, "why would an ancient advanced civilization present itself as newly spacefaring? Why the deception?" Ilara sighed, feeling the weight of countless similar conversations across thousands of years. "Walk with me," she said simply. They moved away from the excavation toward a ridge overlooking the settlement. In the distance, the 3 moons of Proxima Vega cast their combined light over the landscape, creating an otherworldly tableau. Ilara was silent for a long moment, organizing thoughts honed through countless first contact scenarios. "Humanity isn't young, Velenka. We're among the oldest still existing intelligences in this galaxy. Perhaps the oldest," she finally said. "What you've seen today, our settlement, our technology, is deliberately simplified. Not primitive, but restrained." The Telsari scales had settled into a deep blue of intense focus. "Explain." "Let me show you something first," Ilara replied. She touched the simple communication device at her belt, the device that had appeared so outdated to the Telsari observers. Suddenly, the air before them shimmered, and Atlas manifested visually, not as the anthropomorphic interface common to human AI companions, but as a complex, multidimensional lattice of light that expanded and contracted with each computational cycle. "Greetings, High Emissary Velenka," Atlas said, its voice no longer coming from thin air, but resonating with harmonic overtones. "I am Atlas, Autonomous Temporal Logistics and Augmentation System, version 9.73. I have been operational for approximately 1.2 million Earth years." Velenka physically recoiled, his scales flashing white with shock. This cannot be." "Yet it is," Ilara said gently. "Atlas has been humanity's companion since before we left our home system. It has witnessed the rise and fall of over 3,000 interstellar civilizations, 47 of which evolved in the region now claimed by the Tulsari Concordat." Atlas added matter-of-factly, "The most recent being the Moravian Collective, which developed faster than light travel approximately 32,000 years ago and collapsed due to internal conflicts 11,243 years ago." Velenka stared at the AI manifestation, then back to Ilara. "If this is true, if humanity possesses such advancement and longevity, why hide? Why pretend to be less than you are?" Ilara's eyes reflected the starlight as she gazed upward. "Because we learned, through bitter experience, the cost of revealing too much too quickly." The images Atlas projected shifted, showing scenes from across time and space, civilizations rising in brilliant achievement, then collapsing into chaos and war after receiving technologies they weren't prepared to wield. "In our youth, we were like you, eager to share, to elevate, to guide," Ilara continued. "We believed technological advancement equated to wisdom. We were wrong. We watched civilizations tear themselves apart with gifts we thought benevolent." More images flowed, worlds rendered uninhabitable, species extinct by their own hand, technologies perverted from their intended purpose. "After the third great collapse, humanity made a choice," Marcus added, joining them at the ridge. "We would remain in the shadows of the galaxy, watching, learning, occasionally guiding, but never imposing our development timeline on others. The protocols were established," Ilara explained. "When we interact with younger civilizations, we present ourselves as only marginally more advanced, or in your case, less advanced, to prevent disruption of natural development patterns." Velenka's scales had settled into a subdued gray, the color of profound contemplation among his kind. "How many of you are there? How widespread is humanity?" Atlas answered, projecting a galactic map where countless points of light indicated human presence. "Current